Welcome to another episode of James Loves Butter. Welcome back, everybody. It's great to have you. Any new subscribers, anybody that's first time here, great to have you here. Just the first statement is I do not condone any drug taken, any criminal activity, any physical violence, any inappropriate behaviour. It's reflective on a time gone by. And I'm here to share this experience or insight to maybe potentially help somebody else or to maybe entertain a few people. First and foremost, just to say, at the end of the last video, I meant to sort of review the books that I've got here, or just give you a little bit of an insight about what books are on view here. So the first one is Killing Pablo by Mark Bowden, about the hunt for the most powerful, at that time, criminal in history. The second book is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess, of a famous film. The Diary of a Drug Fiend by Alistair Crowley. Another book called The Language of the Heart by a guy called Bill Wilson. Underneath that's The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. And underneath that is Mr. Smiley, which is the follow-on from Mr. Nice by Howard Marks. Some good books, some that you'll be familiar with and maybe some that you won't. Highly recommended, all of them actually, for different reasons. Up and coming, soon to come in the week will be the episode Tattoos, or Prison Tattoos and Heroin Within the System and Drugs Within the System. My last episode was quite emotive and emotional. Story, personal experience. Today I'm going to take another perspective of a day in the life of the old character that was Jimmy Fingers back in that time. So I'm going back some years now. I'd moved out of London and I was now in the Midlands, up to no good, mischievous, excitable and relentless. And I'd not yet got into the debacle of heroin addiction. So I was fundamentally using cocaine, crack cocaine here and there. I'd go through moments of using different substances and attaching myself to different people, but it was a roller coaster. And it seemed to be, by some people looking in, as if it was exciting. And what I call is that I would take hostages. I'd get people along with me because it seemed to be fun and exciting, and actually what would happen is it'd unravel and there'd be some serious consequences and problems that would come about. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please comment. Any questions, any comments, please like and subscribe using the buttons below. It really helps the channel, helps it to grow and develop. I'm trying to explain this story as clearly and succinctly as possible, and if it seems that I'm getting excited when explaining this situation, it's just me as being a storyteller, raconteur, but truth, what happened. So I'd gone out on a Friday night and I was drinking in the local boozer, and then I'd gone on to the local club, and I would have taken, definitely I was drinking lots of Sambuca and shots of tequila at this time, and pills left, right and centre, and wheeling and dealing within that arena to keep getting myself more cocaine or more pills. And I was known as somebody that had lived in London previously, so I'd come with a certain image and reputation as being the Londoner, although I wasn't born and bred in London. Don't misconstrue me, but it's just my accent and how I was, and I seemed to be one step ahead. I seemed to be some delusional stuff within that. So I was out this one evening and I was up to my usual tricks, dancing, wild girls, all that kind of thing. And I bumped into this guy called Nick. And within me, there was a part of me that wanted to go back to London and see some people. But when one's in altered states, what seems a good idea at the time doesn't always end up to be a good idea. So this is about a trip to London at the back end of a night out. So I bumped into this guy Nick, we got talking, and we both knew somebody in London too that had been in the Midlands with us, so we wanted to sort of visit him. And obviously when one's intoxicated with liquor and ecstasy, we seem to have these bright ideas. To paint a picture, at that time, I'd been involved in some illegal credit card activity, and I was dressed head to toe in new clothes because I've been doing credit cards and buying new clothes with these credit cards. It was about the time of Nokia 3310s, and there was a thing with phones then that what you could do is customize your phone. So a 3310, I would take the shell off and put a transparent shell on it, and I had the like Night Rider LED light on the back, so when my phone would ring, this Night Rider light would go off in the back. And when you're in the middle of the club and you're thinking you're bloody Del Boy or whatever character you're portraying, I thought it looked cool, you know, with my light flashing off, ringing off in the middle of the club. And you could also add something to make the phone vibrate. I'd acquired the stuff to create this phone as a result of some fraudulent activity in a phone shop, which resulted in me confronted in a pub by somebody in a bike crash helmet and a baseball bat, who nearly took my head off and nearly killed me at that time, but I managed to talk my way out of it. That's another story anyway. So I was with this guy and we had a great idea to go to London. So we'd taken a couple of pills, we'd been drinking some shots, we had a bit of cash. So we've gone to the train station, and at this time I was carrying a blank starting pistol, basically like a black handgun. I was carrying it in the front of my trousers, thinking I was like John Wayne or the Young Guns, I'll make you famous, which is none too smart, none too clever. But when you're, like I say, you've taken ecstasy and you're intoxicated, you're on top of the world, you're untouchable. And I would find people that would be excited about my activities and what I was getting up to. So long story short, we jumped on this train, and I remember being on this train, I think we had a couple of pills left, we'd taken a couple of pills. We had a bottle of, I think it was red aftershock. And we're on this journey. And as we're talking and we're aware of our surroundings, but doing what we want on this train. And this guy that I'm with, Nick, I revealed to him that I'd got this blank starter pistol. But within the character that I was and what I was playing, I was like, I've got the shooter. We're good. I also had some stolen credit cards on me as well, and some fake ecstasy tablets and fake pills that I would sell around in the clubs the night before. And I'd sometimes swap the fake ones with somebody for some real ones, all that kind of thing. So we're buzzing on the train, doing shots, licking back this aftershock. And he's seen that I'd got this gun in the front of my trousers, and you know, he was impressionable, and he said to me, "Oh, Fingers, James, can I, let's have a go on that. Let me put it down the front of my trousers." You know, he wanted to feel like a gangster. And I was like, yeah, cool, man. So he took it off me and I passed it to him, and he put it down the front of his trousers. I didn't really think too much of it. And obviously, you know, within a train, you have to go to the toilet back and forth. Just to state, this is many, many years ago now, just to clarify it. And he was going to the toilet and coming back, but unbeknown to me what he was doing, as he was walking down the train, he'd done something where somebody had lifted, and they'd seen the gun. We didn't know this, of course. Anyway, we were going into St Pancras station, a big station in London, and we got about, if you want to just call it half a mile, you know, and it says we're approaching St Pancras, and the train stopped. Said there was a slight delay with a train up ahead, and we're just waiting for that to come out of the way so we can pull into the station. Didn't think anything of it at all. The train started moving again, and we were excited to get to London to go and see a friend, and there was another guy that I wanted to visit as well. Full of excitement and exuberance and energy, bit of cash, you know, young, dumb and full of, I won't say that, but you know what I mean, you get the picture. And the train's pulled into St Pancras. It stopped, there's silence. We've got up and we've gone to the doors, and it goes beep, 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 beep. Press the button and the doors have opened. And as we've stepped off the train, to give you a picture of what had happened, somebody on the train had seen either myself or my friend with this alleged handgun. And it was a time of IRA, terrorism, guns, you know. So somebody had called the police and said there's somebody with a gun on the train. So what had happened is they'd called this into the police, and the whole train station had been evacuated and closed down, and the armed response team had turned up in preparation for this. So we were casually about to step off a train, and as we stepped off, it was, don't move, get down on the floor, don't move, put your hands where we can see them. What it seemed to be, there was a SWAT team or armed response positioned around the top part of the station, and it's a long time ago, so forgive me if there's some inaccuracies, but this is how it seemed to be. Surrounded by police, everybody else screamed and dived on the floor because they were shocked at the situation. I was very casual and nonchalant around this situation, and just, you know, I was in my own movie, and just said, like, you know, and I got down on the floor, and the guy that I was with, he was absolutely terrified, where I was a little bit more familiar with these sort of scenarios and experiences, and I found it all quite riveting and exciting. So I got down on the floor, and they've taken us both at that time, because there'd been a possibility that we could have been with the IRA. They weren't to know. So we got taken to the rule with terrorism and terrorists, and still obviously to this day, if you get caught together, they take you to separate police stations so they can interrogate you separately. Well, that's how it was then. That's what happened. So I went to, say, King's Cross Station, and he went to another one. I can't remember which one it was. I say it was a while ago. So he got interrogated with an inch of his life, and he was not so au fait with the system. And, you know, he said exactly, I mean, he was honest with actually the situation, and he would have seen that there'd been a level of innocence around him. So they would have sussed that out. With me, I definitely seemed to be as if I was sort of the one in control, the ringleader and stuff. But actually, within my description of everything that went on, you know, I had fake pills, I had a blank starter pistol, I had some credit cards that didn't belong to me. And I was also dressed to the nines in things that obviously I wasn't working at the time, that I couldn't actually pay for. So I was definitely a dodgy character. Long story short, they interviewed the pair of us, and I mean, this was biblical. This was just crazy. They'd shut down a whole station, St Pancras station, cordoned it off, armed response, get down on your knees, get down on the floor, don't move. You know, I almost felt like there was red freaking laser beams on me, you know, like targets. You know, it was so serious. A lot of it was sort of exacerbated by the state of mind that I was in as a result of drinking Jack Daniels and, you know, having been on ecstasy and stuff. But this did happen. It was very real, and it was very, very, very serious. Of course, understandably so. So we got taken to separate police stations, interrogated. It became evident and clear that we weren't terrorists, that it was misadventure, but the ramifications or the nature of what we'd done was very serious, actually, you know. In my mind, in our minds, I would like to say it was hijinks, but there was a level of me at that point within my life that could have gone very sinister within. I could switch, I could turn on a sixpence, that what could be fun that could actually turn into me doing something very serious with the handgun and the fake pills, you know, the ramifications of all that sort of thing. In hindsight, I'm very pleased that did happen in the context, because something really even more serious could have happened, you know, and we're talking sort of armed robberies or potential armed robberies, or scaring and frightening people, more so than what had already happened, actually. In hindsight, looking back, this was, do I say it's funny? I don't mean it's funny in the respect of, you know, the armed response and the services and the potential threat or the fear that was created within that. But what a mental situation and scenario, and more so, the guy that this happened with, we're still friends, although we didn't speak for many years because we become separated by our own problems within a drug addiction. But we came back round, and we're cool now, and he's doing well as well. He's doing okay. But he was horrified and terrified by this for a long time. We laugh about it now, so to speak, the absurdity of it. So I got let out, and I was a little bit street savvy or street smart than he was at that time. Didn't get me very far, clearly. And I got released, and I just headed to King's Cross Station. Well, I knew King's Cross to be a place at that time was renowned for its undercurrent, its the underbelly of nightlife that went on, which was predominantly prostitution, pimps, drug addicts, and people selling drugs. So it was a very, and I don't mean that in a positive way, it had a real reputation. I'm not saying it still doesn't, but at that time it was a very dark, seedy place and dangerous place to be, King's Cross, especially if you didn't have your wits about you. What they'd done with me is because they'd seen that the majority of things that I had in me were purchased by illicitly as a result of these credit cards that I had on me, although they couldn't prove it at the time, because I didn't have proof of employment or receipts on me. What they did is they took my phone off me, they took my jacket off me. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, I'm just saying what happened. I wasn't happy about it at the time, of course. They took my phone off me, they took my jacket on me, anything materialistic or cash that I had on me, I think they allowed me to keep. Did they, or did they take all my money off me? They took all my money off me. I had a couple of £100 on me. And obviously I had the fake pills, they obviously confiscated that. So I got out, you know, not very happy. And bear in mind that I've been on these pills and drinking aftershock. I was coming down, I was down. So, you know, you've got the come down pressure going on as well, which is intense. But a resilient son of a gun that I am, I got out and went to King's Cross Station, not knowing where this other guy, Nick, was or what had happened to him. Anyway, I walked into King's Cross Station and there, sitting on the floor, depressed, dishevelled, completely broken, was my mate sitting there. Bear in mind, this was about, if you want to say, just 4 in the morning, maybe 12 in, not 4, sorry, 12, sorry, 3, 4 in the morning. And the next train to where we wanted to go at that time wasn't until maybe 7, something like that, give or take. And especially when you're coming down and you're cold and freezing, time just, it stands still. It stood still, like tick, tick. So we sat and I saw him and he was like half pleased to see me, but half not happy about the situation. But I was my usual positive, so pleased, and we were pleased to have found each other, you know, it was so good. And I found you, and what happened, and we explained what happened, like what we're going to do. I mean, we just wanted some more alcohol or drugs to take to sort of get us through the next few hours. To sit there for that amount of time was just not going to cut it. It was freezing. We probably would have got evicted out of the station at that time. And there's some very dark, seedy, nefarious characters about. He had 20 quid, I think it was at the time, and they let him out with this 20 quid. And I said, what we need to do is we need to buy some more drugs to get through the rest of the evening till we can get a train in the morning, which then we can get back home. You know, and you just really want to go to bed. That's how we felt. But it was cold, miserable, wet. They'd taken my jacket off. You almost sort of, you know, when you feel clammy and horrible from the pills. Awful. So I said, right, give me that score. Give me the 20 quid. In the middle of King's Cross, he was, you know, I don't say he was petrified, but he was in a more nervous state than I was, and I was sort of kind of quite cocksure of myself. And anyway, looking around, and I was like, right, what can we do with 20 quid? Anyway, long story short, I approached this guy, this Jamaican fellow. I'm not going to call him a Rasta. I'm not going to call him a dread. I'm just going to say this black guy that would resemble a Rastafarian, just to create and paint a picture. And I was like, yeah, man, cool. Have you got anything? He was like, yeah, man, what you want? And he goes, yeah, I've got some sensimilla, some cess, which is like a type of weed. And I was like, yeah, cool, man. And I said, can I have a look at it? And he's like, no, man. Or he just showed a little bit of something. Anyway, long story short, I bought it, 20 quid. We were sweet. We got off, grafted a couple of Rizzlers, half a cigarette, and just thought, cool, let's have a joint, compose ourselves a little bit. Anyway, we got round the corner, opened this thing up, and it was a bag of bloody oregano. Oregano, the herb. But even when you find that, you smell it, you're not too sure. So what you do is you still roll up a spliff to smoke it, just to try and see if you're mistaken. You're not quite, and it was. So we'd been skanked. So we'd lost our last 20 quid. No weed, nothing. In the middle of King's Cross, it was freezing. Nowhere to go. So we just ended up, and then starting to come down and being paranoid and insecure and frightened and worried about what was going to happen. Two guys, you know, sort of not a fay or a wait to the local area. We probably stood out a little bit, you know. So we started wandering around and some back alleys and stuff. And we found, we stood inside this phone box and tried to sort of hold on to each other and, like, I don't say cuddle, but sort of keep each other warm to try and sleep in this phone box standing upright, which obviously was never going to happen. And then I found like a derelict building, and we got into that derelict building. I tried to make a fire to keep us warm, wrap ourselves in boxes, and there was some old blankets and stuff. And basically, in a long story short, we tried to do that, tried to sleep for a couple of hours. Well, I'm a light sleep as it is, and I mean, he fell asleep for a bit and I couldn't sleep. And long story short, we woke up about 6 a.m, got up, made our way to the station, found a train, got home on the first train, and got back home. And it was a long trip, and we felt ruined, dishevelled. Then obviously we got charged, and I forget the charges, but carrying an artificial handgun, the credit card thing, which was a charge that continued, and I got sentenced for further on down the line. And all the stuff that went along, the other criminal stuff that went along with these credit cards and the mobile phone, intent to supply fake narcotics and endanger life. You know, there was some serious charges, but the handgun was he in possession of the handgun at that point? I think he may have been, actually. Long story short, sorry, I've said that a few times now. These charges, I did get charged. The charge that he got was carrying an artificial weapon. I think in the end got dropped. There was no further action, but I incurred several charges that I ended up going to court for and received punishment for. It was a crazy night. It was a crazy day. The ramifications of that, obviously, did I get a custodial sentence for that? I didn't, but I got punished for it and got some community service and a court case that highlighted some other things within that. So that was the time that me and my friend Nick got arrested for terrorism offences in London after just going out for the night to have a few drinks and take a few pills. The moral of the story is don't get any bright ideas, don't travel anywhere whilst high or intoxicated. Certainly don't carry any real handguns or fake handguns. You can endanger life, you can cause problems within network rail, etc., and you can bring harm to your friends. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for having us. Soon to come, prison tattoos and heroin within the system, drugs within the system. Thanks for listening. There's another episode of James Loves Butter. As Nancy Reagan says, just say no.